For years, individuals have been in search for that special someone, that perfect person of refinement, poise, and taste. That special individual. The Goth girlfriend. And she has been lurking right beneath our nose in these forgotten realms. And today I'm going to tell you about her. Meet Nuvarim. I don't know if her titties are big. Honestly, it's D&D. You can make those titties as big as all outdoors if you really want to. Nuvarim is a drow black shadow dragon assassin.
What the shit? That's the coolest name ever!
Yes, you heard that correctly. All of those things at the same time. And she lives just in the Desserin Valley in a place called Rundreth Manor. Or at least the ruins of Rundreth Manor that's left over. You may not have noticed her, but she's one of my favorite kind of off the beaten path, lesser known NPC characters that exists in all of the Forgotten Realms. And I want to talk about her today. So, most people didn't get a chance to meet Nuvarim. Part of that is because she exists in the 5th edition module Princes of the Apocalypse, which is a module that 4 people played. And the other part of that is she is kind of in an off-side adventure in Princes of the Apocalypse. Like, she's definitely a character that somebody who was working on Princes of the Apocalypse liked from some of the other obscure lore that she's in. And let me tell you, when it comes to Nuvarim, buckle in, because her lore is the obscuriest. So, in order to talk about Nuvarim, we first need to talk about her lineage a little bit, where she comes from. Nuvarim's father is Mozkal Jazarid. Get ready for more weird drow names pronounced poorly. So, Mozkal Jazarid is a leader of the Jazarid Cholson. The Jazarid Cholson is a group of drow assassins and drow dragons. Mozkal Jazarid is a drow dragon assassin sorcerer, just in case you thought the titles couldn't get any more badass. But he is part of the Jazarid Cholson, and the Jazarid Cholson is a splinter group of drow dragons that hate Lolth because of a brief period where Lolth forsook all of her drow children and disappeared and didn't grant any spells or any miracles or anything for a while, and just kind of took off for a while, like a wine mom. And after that, they decided that they were done with the matriarchy and that they were going to go ahead and gather a group together and get rid of this addiction to Lolth within drow society. Spoiler alert, didn't go well, and also, I'm just realizing this is a dude founding a patriarchy with the goal of overthrowing a matriarchy, and that's just full of all kinds of sticky stuff that we just gonna skate on right past. So, who the hell are the Jazarid Cholson? What's a drow dragon? What the hell am I talking about? Let's get into that. Let's start with Cholson. So Cholson, God, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Cholson was a city of drow in the Underdark, but it had one little problem. It had a lot of rifts to the Shadowfell opening up all the time, and it was constantly infested with tendrils of shadow stuff, which sounds like a product that you would buy for kids in the early 90s. Like GAC? I imagine shadow stuff like GAC. Anyways, so shadow stuff is all over the place. Tendrils of shadow, portions of the town disappear and go to the Shadowfell and just come back later. That's gotta be fun. New neighbors all the time. So that's the problem with Cholson. Cholson, inevitably, as you do, gets conquered by shadow dragons. And I guess those shadow dragons must have thought that those drows were just too beautiful, because after it became conquered by shadow dragons, it eventually became full of half shadow dragon drow. The result of that was that the drow eventually rebelled. The shadow dragon drow rebelled against the half dragon, or fuck. I knew this was gonna be a tough one. The half-shadow dragon drow eventually rebelled against the shadow dragons that had conquered Cholson and retook the city. But after they retook the city, a contingent from Menzoberranzan wanted to go fight them and said, hey, you guys are abominations, you're not full-blooded drow anymore, you're down. And this inevitably led to a bit of confrontation. Long story short, Silence of Lolth, Spell Plague, all this was happening. They turn to Verun. Vaharun, Varun, who is a god of the masked god of shadows and darkness and murder. That worked out great for a while, but then he came down with a bad case of dead after the time of troubles and the spell plague, and they just kind of didn't have a god anymore. So needless to say, it's been a rough couple years for the Jazrid Chulson, the group of drow Shadowfell-tied assassins who have a grudge against Lolth worshippers. I will remind you, wholly different from the Shadrakai, the other group of drow Shadowfell-tied assassins that have a grudge against Lolth worshippers. It's weird that there's two of these, right? Like, maybe they should team up or get together. Anyways, we keep doing this. So, that's the Jazrid Chulson. That's who they are, that's what they're about. I glossed over some stuff, but I don't want to make the video too long. What the hell is up with the half-dragons? Well, we touched on it a little bit. Obviously, the city was conquered by shadow dragons, and those shadow dragons made half-dragon babies with the drow that existed there. But I wish it were as simple as that. Buckle in. Okay, so, after the shadow dragons had enslaved the drow of Chulson and taken over the place, they started to produce offspring that were half drow and half shadow dragon. Those offspring were known as Zekiel. They had some most traditional half dragon characteristics. They had a kind of affinity for the roguish arts, and they could grow shadowy dragon rings. Real edgelord character OC stuff. Those Zekiel were part of the first group that overthrew the shadow dragons that were holding Chulson hostage and the conquerors way back in the day. And those guys gave birth to a second group called, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Zarithra. And Zarithra have a bit more draconic traits. They can draw on more portions of the Shadowfell. They have more Shadow Dragon characteristics. And those are the second generation drow dragons that were born from the Zekiel. So I guess two wrongs do make a Zekiel, or a Zethra? I don't know. Fuck. But you merge half-dragon, shadow dragons, and you get the Zethras. That's what happened. But there is a third type. And that's where we get to our good friend Nuvarim. So, the third type is called Draw Zekiel. And Draw Zekiel can be a dragon, and they can be a drow for an indefinite amount of time. They can choose either form. They can switch back and forth as they wish. And they have the characteristics and abilities of both. And that's what Nuvarim is. But Draw Zekiel are not born. They are created. Except for Nuvarim, who was kidnapped while she was still in her mother's womb. It's complicated. But when she was found later, she was already a full-fledged Draw Zekiel. And as a result of that, she was placed on the ruling council of Chulson alongside her father amongst them. Only lady in the bunch. You know, unfortunate for her in a patriarchy situation. I mean, she'd be great in Menzoberranzan. So on top of everything else, Nuvarim's definitely got daddy issues. So, you know, I don't know if that's a positive or a negative for you. She could become a dragon. The monster lovers got something there. Nuvarim's got a lot to offer. And that's Nuvarim, and that's where she comes from. It's some crazy lore. I did kind of just a surface level take because I really love this character. I think she's really neat and interesting, and she has just little enough information that exists in existing lore that you can kind of do whatever you want with her. I mean, it's a drow shadow dragon assassin that's just running around in the world doing her own thing. That's incredible. Put her in your game. Tell me if you've used Nuvarim before. Who is your favorite, like, off-the-beaten-path drow lore NPC that nobody ever talks about? Maybe I'll do a video about it. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. And until then, puck out.